Her sister stole her fiancé. The Alpha stole her back section 1. The night that shattered everything the church bells should have been ringing for her. Instead, they tolled for her sister. Amara stood frozen at the edge of the courtyard, the hem of her pale blue dress catching in the autumn wind. Candles flickered inside the chapel windows, soft halos of gold against the deep velvet night. She could hear music swelling within, the murmurs of guests, the laughter of family. She should have been the bride. She should have been the one walking down that aisle. Instead, her sister Elise was. The sight gutted her, her own flesh and blood draped in ivory silk, holding the arm of the man Amara had loved since she was old enough to dream of a future. Dominic. His name was a blade in her chest. His dark hair, his proud jaw, the way his mouth curved as Elise whispered something only he could hear. Once, that smile had been hers. Once, those eyes had looked only at her. Now, he belonged to Elise. Amara staggered back, while clawing at her throat. The betrayal was raw, tearing through her veins until she could barely breathe. It wasn't just a stolen wedding. It was a stolen life. Her parents hadn't stopped it. In fact, they had approved. Elise, after all, was the perfect daughter. Beautiful, charming, obedient. Amara, in their eyes, had always been the shadow, the quiet one, the strange one. The one who felt too much, who dreamed too wildly, who asked questions better left unspoken. The guests cheered as the chapel doors opened, spilling Elise and Dominic out into a shower of rice and flower petals. Amara turned before anyone could see her tears. She ran, through the courtyard, through the iron gates, down the stone path that led into the woods. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred, but she didn't stop. The laughter followed her, echoing like cruel bells in her head. Elise's triumph, Dominic's betrayal, her family's silence. The forest swallowed her whole. Moonlight streamed through the skeletal trees, casting silver across her skin. The deeper she ran, the quieter the world became, until even the distant bells were gone. Only the whisper of leaves and the crunch of her footsteps remained. That was when she heard it, a low growl. She froze. It came from the shadows ahead, deep and guttural, vibrating in the marrow of her bones. Her breath caught, white mist in the chill air. Slowly, she turned her head and saw two eyes gleaming in the dark. Gold, unearthly, burning. Her heart stuttered. A wolf. Enormous. Its shoulders were level with her chest, its fur blacker than the night around it. It stepped forward, soundless but for the rumble in its throat. Its gaze locked on her as if she had trespassed into something sacred. Amara staggered back, pulse hammering. Every instinct screamed run, yet her legs refused. There was something about those eyes, something that rooted her to the forest floor. Not just danger, not just hunger. Recognition. The wolf prowled closer. The air shifted, charged, as though lightning had struck without sound or light. She felt it inside her, a pull, a shiver down her spine, a weight settling in her chest that was not fear, but something more dangerous. Something that whispered, "Mine." And then, he changed. Before her very eyes, the beast's body bent, cracked, reformed. Bones shifted beneath fur, muscle stretched, sinew snapped and rewove. The creature rose higher, taller, until a man stood where the wolf had been. The Alpha. She had heard whispers of them all her life. Men who were not men, wolves who were not wolves. Dangerous, hidden, bound to the moon and the old laws no human dared cross. She had never believed the stories. Until now, the man was as terrifying as the beast. Broad-shouldered, his skin gleaming with the sheen of transformation, his eyes still glowing with that feral gold. Dark hair fell over his forehead, damp with sweat. He looked at her the way the wolf had, like she was not a stranger, not prey, but something claimed. "Who are you?" She breathed. Though her voice trembled, he tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her skin flush. "Lost," he said, his voice low, gravel-threaded with command. "And yet, found." She shook her head, taking a step back. "I don't know what you are. I don't want any part of it." But he only moved closer, his gaze never wavering. "You already are." Amara's stomach twisted. The betrayal of Dominic and Elise still burned, but here in the dark, under the weight of this stranger's gaze, something else flared. Something wild. Something dangerous, she whispered. "Why are you looking at me like that?" His mouth curved. not into a smile, but something darker. Because the moon doesn't make mistakes. Her pulse stuttered. What do you mean? He closed the space between them, and though he didn't touch her, the heat of him reached her all the same. His eyes burned brighter, and when he spoke, it was with a certainty that sent chills down her spine. You are mine. The words rang in her skull, louder than bells, louder than Elise's laughter, louder than her own doubts. They terrified her. They thrilled her. Because in that moment, standing shattered and hollow in the forest, she realized that though Elise had stolen Dominic, something far greater had just stolen her, the Alpha, and nothing would ever be the same. Section 2. The unwanted claim. The word mine echoed in Amara's head long after it left his lips. She stared at him, chest heaving, her heart trying to outpace the drumbeat of destiny she had never asked for. She should have screamed. She should have run. But her body betrayed her, standing rooted to the forest floor as if the earth itself had conspired to hold her there. The Alpha's golden eyes softened slightly, though the fire in them did not dim. You feel it, don't you? He asked, voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. The pull. The bond. You know you're not meant to walk away. Amara shook her head violently. No, I don't know you. I don't want to know you. My life. Her voice cracked. Her life? What was left of it? Elise had taken her place at the altar. Dominic had taken vows with another woman. The life she thought she was meant to have had already burned to ash. The Alpha stepped closer, each movement fluid, predatory, inescapable. Then fate has spared you, he said. Because that man, whoever he was never truly yours. Amara flinched. His words were a blade, slicing at a wound still raw. You don't know anything about me, she whispered, anger flaring to mask her pain. I know enough, he countered, his voice dark velvet. I know you're meant for me. The forest seemed to close in, every tree leaning to listen, the moonlight etching silver fire across his skin. Amara's pulse thundered. She wanted to deny him, to laugh at the absurdity of it all. But her body betrayed her again, the warmth spreading through her chest, the invisible tether pulling her closer. No, she breathed, forcing herself to stumble back. I don't want this. I don't want you. For the first time, the Alpha's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. The air between them shifted, less gentle, more dangerous. Not cruel, but commanding. The kind of authority that could silence storms. You think this is choice? He asked. His voice was not raised, but it carried the weight of something ancient. The bond is older than you, older than me. You can deny it, but it will not deny you. Amara's breath hitched. A strange pressure curled around her chest, squeezing, not painful, but suffocating all the same. She felt him inside her, not in body, but in some deeper, terrifying way. Like his soul had brushed against hers and left a mark that could never be washed away. She clutched at her heart, whispering, What are you? He tilted his head, dark hair falling into his eyes. What you've always been warned about. What you were always meant to find. He stepped closer, so close she could smell him. Earth and smoke, and something raw, something primal. His gaze flickered to her trembling hands. You're shaking. Not from fear. Yes, she snapped, desperate to cling to something familiar. From fear. From rage. From everything I've lost tonight. Her voice cracked, breaking into the night. She hated herself for it, for sounding weak in front of him, for letting the ache spill out where he could see. But the Alpha only stilled, studying her with a gravity that unsettled her more than his nearness. For the briefest flicker, she thought she saw something in his eyes, understanding. You've lost what was never meant to be yours, he said softly, almost gently. But you've gained what no one can take. Her throat tightened. And what's that? His lips curved, not quite a smile, but a promise. Me. The word struck her harder than any blow. She spun away, gasping, needing space, needing air. The forest blurred, her vision swimming with too much grief, too much fury, too much of him. Stay away from me, she cried, stumbling deeper into the trees. She half expected him to let her go. But he didn't. Leaves crunched behind her, silent but inevitable. His presence pressed against her back, close enough that her skin prickled, yet he didn't touch her. Not a single brush of his hand. And still, she felt bound, as if invisible chains tethered her to him. Run if you need to, he said, voice low, almost amused. But the bond will always lead you back. She spun, glaring through her tears. I won't be your prisoner. He arched a brow. Prisoner. His tone hardened, though his eyes still burned with that infuriating certainty. No, Amara. You are not a prisoner. You are a Luna. The word dropped into the night like a stone into water, sending ripples through the silence that Amara's mouth went dry. Luna. She knew the word from stories whispered around fires. Tales meant to scare children into obedience. A Luna was the Alpha's chosen mate. His equal. His queen. But those were just myths, weren't they? She shook her head, backing away. I don't want this. I don't want your world, your rules, your bond. I just want my life back. Something flickered in his expression, pain, quickly masked by steel. He straightened, towering above her, every line of him radiating dominance. That life is gone. Burn the moment your sister took your place. You can cling to ashes, or you can rise into what you were meant to be. Her heart twisted. She hated him. She hated the truth in his words even more. Because deep down, in the hollow space Dominic had left behind, something inside her whispered that she was already his. Amara stumbled back again, shaking her head, her voice barely a whisper. I don't believe you. The Alpha's eyes glowed brighter, a golden fire in the dark. He didn't move closer this time. He didn't need to. His words reached her like a vow etched into her very bones. You will. And with that, he turned, melting back into the shadows of the forest as if the night itself had swallowed him whole. Amara stood alone beneath the moonlight, her body trembling, her heart in chaos. She told herself she hated him. She told herself she wanted nothing of this bond, this claim, this world that had ripped her from everything she knew. But as the forest grew silent around her, she realized something far worse. Her sister may have stolen her fiancé, but the Alpha had stolen something far deeper. Her soul. Section 3. Pulled into the pack, the forest felt colder after he left. Amara hugged herself tightly, her breaths ragged in the moonlight. The silence pressed on her ears, heavier than the sound of his voice had been. She wanted to convince herself it had all been a hallucination, born of heartbreak, exhaustion, grief. But her skin still tingled where his presence had wrapped around her like unseen chains. His words still throbbed in her skull. You are mine. She staggered through the trees, desperate to find the path home, though she had no idea what home even meant anymore. Not after tonight. Not after Elise's veil brushed against Dominic's arm, while the vows Amara once dreamed of had been spoken without her. Her foot snagged on a root, sending her crashing to the damp earth. She pressed her palms into the soil, sobs breaking free at last. Hot, wild, ugly. She buried her face in her arms, whispering curses, at Elise, at Dominic, at fate. At the golden-eyed beast who thought he could claim her with a single word. Branches rustled. Amara froze, her tears catching in her throat. Slowly, she lifted her head. A figure moved between the trees. Not the Alpha, but others. At least 3. Shadows stretched long across the ground as men stepped into the clearing, their eyes catching silver in the moonlight. Not glowing like his, but sharp, wary. Found her, one murmured. His voice was hushed, but carried an edge of authority. Amara scrambled backward, her spine slamming against a tree. Who are you? The tallest of them stepped forward. His dark hair was cropped short, his build leaner than the Alpha's, but still powerful, coiled like a predator waiting to spring. We're his, the man said simply. His pack. Her stomach dropped. No, stay away from me. They exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. Then the tallest crouched slightly, hands open as though trying not to startle her. We won't hurt you, he said. But you can't stay out here. Not alone. It isn't safe. Her laugh was sharp, bitter. Safe? Do you hear yourself? Your Alpha just threatened to chain me to him like some kind of. She bit off the rest, her chest heaving. The man's jaw tightened. He doesn't threaten. He claims what's his. And once the bond is sealed, no one, not even death, can undo it. Her veins turned to ice. Bond. That word again. The invisible tether tightening around her ribs. I don't want it, she spat. The man's gaze softened, but his tone stayed firm. Doesn't matter what you want. It's already begun. Before she could bolt, another pack member stepped behind her, blocking escape. Panic surged. She lashed out, shoving past them. But hands caught her arms, gentle yet unyielding. Let me go, she cried, thrashing. I don't belong to him. I don't belong to anyone. A shadow moved at the edge of the clearing. Amara stilled. The alpha emerged, stepping into moonlight as though it bent toward him. His presence silenced the others instantly, their grips loosening though they didn't release her. He didn't look at them. His eyes found her, and only her. Enough, he said, his voice a command that made the hairs on her arms rise. The men dropped their hands. She stumbled forward, but before she could flee, his hand caught her wrist. Not roughly, but firmly, undeniably. The touch seared through her, heat shooting up her arm. Her breath caught, and she hated herself for how her body responded, shivering not from fear, but from recognition. "Why are you doing this to me?" She whispered, her voice breaking. "Why me?" His gaze softened, just a fraction, but the weight of it pinned her in place. "Because the moon chose you." "I don't care what the moon chose." She snapped, wrenching against his grip. "I choose myself, and I don't want this. I don't want you." For a moment, silence stretched. His jaw flexed, his eyes burning brighter, but when he spoke, his voice was quiet. Dangerous in its calm. "You will come with me. You will see. Then decide if you truly do not want what's already yours." Before she could protest, he lifted her as if she weighed nothing, her fists pounding against his chest uselessly. His warmth surrounded her, his scent filling her lungs until she hated how familiar it already felt. The forest blurred as the pack moved with him. Swift and silent, carrying her deeper into the woods. They reached it before dawn, a village hidden in the trees. Houses built of stone and timber, smoke rising from chimneys. Wolves padded between shadows, their eyes reflecting silver, their bodies massive and silent. People turned as the alpha strode past, their heads bowing instinctively. Respect, fear, devotion. Amara's stomach twisted. This was not a myth, not a story whispered around fires. This was real. The alpha set her on her feet in the center of the village. She stumbled back, glaring at him with all the fury she could muster. "You think dragging me here will change anything?" "It won't." He studied her, unreadable. "No, but it will show you what it means to belong." The villagers whispered, their eyes flicking between her and him. She felt their stares like knives. A stranger in their world, an intruder, and yet, when the alpha stepped closer, his hand hovering near hers, she felt it again. The pull, the bond, the thing inside her that refused to be denied. She hated it. She feared it. But most of all, she feared herself, because a small, treacherous part of her already wanted to know what it meant to be his. Section 4. The first night in the alpha's world, the pack village seemed alive with silence. Everywhere Amara turned, she felt eyes on her, some human, some gleaming from the shadows with lupin fire. Their gazes were not welcoming. Suspicion rippled through the air, thick as smoke, pressing against her ribs until she struggled to breathe. The alpha walked at her side, his long stride steady, unbothered by the whispers. His presence parted the crowd like an unseen blade. The villagers bowed their heads as he passed, deference etched into every gesture. But when their eyes flicked to her, the deference vanished, replaced with mistrust. She wasn't one of them, and they knew it. Her hand brushed her own wrist, still burning faintly where he had touched her. That tether, that invisible chain, she hated how real it felt, how undeniable. Yet the stares of the pack reminded her of something more terrifying. She didn't belong here. "Why are they looking at me like that?" she whispered, keeping her eyes down. The alpha glanced at her, his golden gaze unreadable. "Because they see what I see." She swallowed hard. "And what's that?" "My Luna." The word struck her like a lash. She stopped walking, her breath catching. "Don't call me that." The alpha turned to face her fully, the night air cooling between them. His eyes didn't waver. "It isn't a title I give. It's who you are." Her throat tightened. Rage and grief swirled in her chest, but under it all was something she couldn't name, something traitorous and soft. "No," she whispered. "I didn't choose this. I don't want it." A flicker of pain crossed his face, quickly masked by steel. "One has nothing to do with fate." They led her to a cabin near the edge of the village. It wasn't locked, but it might as well have been. Wolves patrolled the perimeter, their shadows shifting under moonlight. Guards or jailers? Inside, the cabin was warm, firelight flickering across wooden walls. A bed sat against one corner, heavy furs piled thick. A table with a single chair. It was simple, too simple, like a cage dressed as comfort. Amara stood stiffly in the doorway, refusing to step further. You can't keep me here. The Alpha leaned against the frame opposite her, arms crossed. I can. I will. Her jaw clenched. You think this bond means I'll just surrender? His gaze softened, though his voice stayed firm. No. I think it means you'll eventually understand. That's all I ask. She let out a bitter laugh. Understanding? My sister betrayed me. My fiancé left me at the altar. And now a stranger tells me I'm his because of some ancient curse of the moon? Tell me how I'm supposed to understand that. For a long moment, silence filled the cabin, broken only by the crackle of fire. Then, to her shock, the Alpha stepped closer, not looming, not commanding, but steady. Because I know betrayal too, he said quietly. I know what it is to have everything ripped away. And I know what it is to build something stronger from the ashes. Amara blinked, thrown off balance. His voice was raw, edged with a truth she hadn't expected. For a heartbeat, she saw not just an Alpha, but a man with scars invisible to the eye. Before she could reply, the door creaked open. A woman entered, her dark hair braided, her arms laden with folded clothes. She placed them on the table, bowing her head toward the Alpha but barely sparing Amara a glance. These are for her, the woman said briskly, as if speaking about an object rather than a person. Thank you, Mara, the Alpha replied. The woman's eyes flicked to Amara then, sharp, cool, assessing. If she's truly meant to be Luna, she'll need more than clothes. She'll need to survive us. Amara's stomach tightened. The woman left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her. The Alpha's jaw tightened. Ignore her. Amara hugged herself, her voice low. They don't want me here. They will, he said simply. Once they see you're mine. The words sparked fresh anger. Stop saying that. She snapped, her voice cracking. I don't want to be yours. I don't want to be Luna. I just want my life back. For a long moment, his eyes burned into hers. Then he stepped closer, close enough that the heat of him brushed her skin. He didn't touch her, though she felt the restraint in every line of him. You think I wanted this? He asked, his voice low, almost ragged. You think I asked the moon to bind me to a human who doesn't even believe in my world? Amara's breath caught. The intensity in his voice, the raw edge, it wasn't just dominance. It was confession. No, he continued, his eyes darkening. I didn't want this. But when I saw you, I knew. The bond doesn't ask. It demands. And now, whether you accept it or not, we are tied. Her chest heaved, her pulse racing. For the first time, she saw the truth. He was as trapped as she was. The thought unsettled her more than anything else. Night deepened. The Alpha finally left her alone, though she could feel his presence outside like a storm waiting to break. Amara curled on the bed, staring into the fire, every muscle taut. She tried to focus on Elisa's laughter, on Dominic's betrayal, anything to remind herself of the world she had lost. But the tether pulled at her like a current. Her thoughts kept circling back to him. His voice, his eyes, the strange gravity of his presence. She hated it. She hated him. And yet, when the wind howled outside, she found herself straining to catch the sound of his footsteps. Sleep claimed her eventually, though uneasily, but her dreams were not her own. She dreamed of golden eyes in the dark, of a hand reaching through shadows to pull her from the edge of a cliff. She dreamed of wolves circling, bowing their heads to her. She dreamed of fire and blood and a crown of moonlight settling across her brow. When she jolted awake, breathless, the fire had burned low. And in the silence of the cabin, she realized something that made her blood run cold. The dream hadn't felt like a dream at all. It had felt like a promise. Section 5. Trial by the Paktha. Morning came with a roar of voices. Amara jolted awake to the sound of wolves howling beyond the cabin walls. Sunlight pierced through the shutters, sharp and merciless. She sat up, the remnants of her dream clinging like smoke. Golden eyes, blood, a crown of light. Before she could shake it off, the door creaked open. One of the pack men from the night before entered, his expression flat. He wants you outside. She almost laughed. Of course he does. Commanding even in absence. Tell your Alpha, I'm not his pawn to be summoned at will. The man's lips twitched, almost pitying. You'll want to come. If you don't, they'll come for you. Her stomach tightened. She didn't ask who they were. She already knew. The center of the village had transformed overnight. A circle of wolves and people surrounded an open space, their eyes sharp, glittering, feral. Whispers carried through the air as Amara was led into the clearing. Human. She doesn't belong here. Why would the moon choose her? The weight of their judgment pressed on her skin until she wanted to fold in on herself. She forced her chin higher. Though her insides trembled, the alpha stood at the edge of the circle. Tall. Still. His presence radiated through the crowd like heat, commanding silence without a word. His eyes locked on her the moment she stepped into the clearing, and though he said nothing, she felt it, the bond humming between them like a live wire. The woman broke from the circle, stepping into the open. Amara recognized her, the one who had brought clothes to the cabin the night before. Mara. Her dark braid swung over her shoulder as she faced the alpha. This is our Luna? Mara's voice rang clear, laced with disdain. She isn't one of us. She has no strength, no bond to our laws. If the moon has made a mistake, it is ours to correct. A murmur of agreement rippled through the pack. Amara's throat tightened. Her heart screamed to run, but the ring of wolves surrounding her made it clear there was no escape. The alpha's gaze flickered, a storm brewing behind his golden eyes. Careful, Mara. But the woman only tilted her chin. If she is truly Luna, let her prove it. Let her survive the trial. The crowd stirred, voices rising. The trial. Yes, the trial. Amara's pulse quickened. She didn't know what the trial was, but the way their eyes gleamed made her blood run cold. The alpha stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. Enough. The crowd stilled. He turned his gaze on Mara. You question the bond, you question me. Is that what you mean to do? Mara's jaw tightened, but she held his stare. I mean to protect the pack. If she fails, we will all suffer for it. Amara's chest tightened. Fails. The alpha turned his gaze on her then, and for the first time since she had met him, she thought she saw hesitation. He didn't want this, but the weight of dozens of eyes pressed on them both. He couldn't shield her without appearing weak. Her voice trembled. What is the trial? He looked at her, his eyes unreadable. A test. To prove strength. To prove you belong. Amara's stomach dropped. And if I don't? The silence that followed was answer enough. They didn't wait. The trial began before the sun climbed too high. Amara was led to the edge of the forest where the trees grew thick, shadows curling like claws. The pack gathered to watch, their eyes glinting with cruel anticipation. Mara stepped forward again, her expression sharp. She must last until the moon rises. Alone. Amara's breath caught. Alone? In there? The woman's smile was thin. If she cannot endure one night in our woods, she cannot endure as Luna. The alpha's jaw clenched, but he said nothing. Not aloud. His gaze found Amara's, golden and unflinching, and though his lips didn't move, she felt the vow thrumming through the bond. I will not let you fall. That it gave her no comfort. The pack parted, making way for her. Someone shoved a torch into her hands. Its flames sputtered, fragile in the morning light. Amara's palms sweated against the wood. Her heart thundered so loudly she could barely hear anything else. But with dozens of eyes watching, waiting for her to break, she straightened her spine. She had lost Dominic. She had lost her family. She refused to lose herself. Without another word, she stepped into the forest. The trees swallowed her instantly. Shadows stretched long, the air thick with moss and damp earth. The further she went, the quieter it became, until even the distant murmurs of the pack faded into silence. Alone, the word clanged inside her chest. She gripped the torch tighter, its glow flickering against bark and stone. Her every step cracked twigs, rustled leaves. Too loud, too exposed. Something moved in the dark. She spun, torch raised. Eyes glinted between branches. Low, feral. A wolf. Bigger than any she had seen before, its fur ragged, its lips curling back to reveal teeth. Her heart stuttered. This wasn't a pack wolf. This was something else. Wild. Unbound. It lunged. Amara screamed, stumbling back. She swung the torch wildly, sparks showering. Fire licked the air, and the beast recoiled, snarling. She didn't think. She just ran, branches whipping her face, lungs burning. The forest twisted around her, endless, merciless. How could she survive until moonrise? Her legs ached, her chest heaved, but she didn't stop. The wolf's snarls echoed behind her, too close. She swung the torch again, desperate, until her back hit a tree. Her hand trembled, her vision blurred with tears. I can't do this. And then, through the pounding of her heart, she felt it dot a pulse. Not hers. His. The Alpha. His strength surged through the bond, not touching her, not near, but there. A tether pulling her from the edge of despair. Get up, she heard him whisper inside her skull, though he was nowhere in sight. Her breath caught. She clutched the torch tighter. She forced her legs to steady. She screamed at the wolf, shoving the fire toward its face. It snarled, retreating a step. Another scream, another push, and it slunk back into the trees, its eyes glowing hatefully before vanishing. Amara collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. But beneath the fear, beneath the exhaustion, one truth settled in her chest like an ember refusing to die. The bond had saved her, and that terrified her more than the wolf ever could. Section 6. Night of Shadows. The forest thickened with every step, swallowing what little courage Amara had left. The sun dipped lower, bleeding gold into violet until the shadows stretched too long, too sharp. By the time darkness fell fully, the torch in her hand was the only barrier between her fragile human body and the wilderness pressing in. Her heart drummed in her ears, too fast, too loud. Each rustle in the undergrowth jolted her like a strike of lightning. Somewhere far behind, wolves howled, an eerie chorus that carried through the night. She knew they were watching. The trial was not just survival. It was spectacle. Her knees quivered, but she pressed on. One step, then another. Breathe. Don't break. The air grew colder, biting through her borrowed clothes. A branch snapped nearby. Amara spun, torch raised, her breath pluming in white puffs. Eyes again. Not one pair this time, but several. Low to the ground, circling, the feral wolves. Her throat closed. She stumbled back, every instinct screaming to flee, but flight was useless. The circle tightened. Snarls rumbled low, vibrating through the earth. No, she whispered, voice cracking. Not like this. She thrust the torch higher, sparks leaping. The wolves flinched, but did not retreat. They wanted her afraid. They wanted her broken. And she was. Her arm ached, heavy with fear, her chest heaving until she thought her ribs might crack. She screamed, not in terror, but in rage. Rage at her sister, at Dominic, at every cruel twist of fate that had left her here. The sound tore from her throat raw, desperate, but something strange happened. The bond flared. Heat shot through her veins, a pulse that wasn't hers slamming into her chest. Her vision blurred gold at the edges. For a split second, she swore she saw through other eyes. Tall grass beneath paws, the stink of blood in the air, the taste of iron on teeth. Fight, a voice rumbled inside her. His voice. The Alpha's. Her knees nearly buckled, but she held her ground. She jabbed the torch forward, forcing the wolves to hesitate. One lunged, jaw snapping. She swung hard, flame grazing fur. The beast yelped, retreating into the brush. Her body shook with adrenaline. She didn't feel strong. She didn't feel brave. But she was alive. The wolves melted into the shadows, circling but not striking. For now, Amara collapsed against a tree, her lungs burning, tears streaking down her face. She wanted to curl up, to disappear. But deep in her chest, the tether thrummed, steady and unyielding. I see you. The Alpha's voice murmured inside her mind. Not soft, not kind, but grounding. She covered her ears as if she could block him out. Leave me alone. The bond only pulsed harder, as if answering her denial with truth. Hours bled into a blur of fear and exhaustion. Amara wandered deeper, following no path. The torch burned low, the wood blackened and fragile. She clutched it tighter, panic tightening around her throat. When it sputtered, she nearly broke. No, no, no. Her breath shook as the flame dwindled to embers, then died, plunging her into darkness. The silence pressed heavier than any growl. She crouched low, trying to make herself small. Her mind screamed that this was it. She would never see morning, but then, movement. Not a wolf this time. A figure tall, broad, golden eyes glowing faintly through the dark. Her breath hitched. He shouldn't have been there. The trial was meant to be endured alone. But there he stood, silent, as if the forest itself had breathed him into being. The Alpha. You're not real, she whispered, voice shaking. You can't be. But when he stepped closer, the heat rolling off his body chased the chill away. "You're stronger than you believe," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "But strength doesn't mean facing death unarmed." Her throat tightened. "They'll kill me if I fail. They'll kill you if they see you interfere." His jaw ticked, a muscle jumping. Let them try. She hated the way her body leaned toward him, drawn like a moth to flame. She hated the way her chest eased, if only slightly, in his presence. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice breaking. For the first time, something flickered in his gaze. Not command, not dominance. Something rawer, you. The word landed like a blow. She stumbled back, shaking her head. No, no, I didn't choose this. I don't want." Her voice broke before she could finish. Because part of her did. His hand lifted, slow, deliberate. For a moment, she thought he would touch her. Instead, he pressed his palm against the tree beside her head, close enough that his heat seeped into her skin. "You're mine," he said, quiet but fierce. "The bond doesn't lie. You can fight it, deny it, run from it, but it will burn through you until you surrender." Her pulse hammered. Her lips trembled. "And if I refuse?" His golden gaze blazed brighter in the dark. "Then it will break us both." The forest rustled then, shattering the fragile stillness. Snarls rose, closer, louder. The feral wolves hadn't given up. The alpha's eyes narrowed. "They won't touch you." Her fear tangled with disbelief. "How can you be so sure?" He bared his teeth, not at her, but at the darkness beyond. "Because they fear me more than you'll ever fear them." The sound that followed wasn't human. It was a growl, deep and primal, vibrating through the ground. From the shadows, the wolves recoiled, their eyes dimming, their forms melting back into the forest until the night fell silent once more. Amara's breath came fast, ragged. She stared at him, chest heaving. "You broke the rules," she whispered. His gaze held hers, unrepentant. "I'll break every rule before I let them take you." The bond thrummed between them, hot and undeniable. She hated him. She wanted him. She feared him. And worst of all, she trusted him. Hours later, when dawn bled pale light through the trees, Amara stumbled back toward the village. Her body ached, her hair tangled, her skin scratched raw. But she was alive. The pack waited in the clearing, eyes sharp, searching. Mara stood at the front, lips curved in a cold smile. She survived. Someone murmured, "She shouldn't have." Another whispered. The alpha appeared at her side, silent and steady. He didn't touch her, but his presence was a wall between her and the crowd. Mara's smile faltered. Amara lifted her chin. She was broken, trembling, but she had endured. Whatever they saw in her eyes made the whispers still. The trial had not destroyed her. It had forged her. Section 7. The alphas claimed. The clearing hummed with tension as Amara stood before the pack. The first pale rays of dawn streaking the sky. Her body still shook from the night. Exhaustion etched into her bones, but she refused to show weakness. Not here, not in front of them. They watched her like predators watching prey, eyes sharp, hungry, waiting for a crack in her armor. Some faces held curiosity, others outright hostility. She could hear the whispers, feel the weight of their judgment. She should have died. She's human. She'll never last. The bond is a curse. Amara's throat tightened, but she kept her chin high. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Mara stepped forward, her dark braids swaying, her eyes glinting cold. "Strange," she said, voice carrying across the clearing. "No one has survived the trial of shadows in years. And yet Mara's gaze raked over Amara like a blade. A fragile human, returns with barely a scratch. Curious, isn't it?" A murmur rippled through the pack. Amara's stomach twisted. They suspected. They knew. He had come for her in the night. Her eyes darted to the alpha before she could stop herself. He stood tall at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, golden eyes fixed on her. He didn't flinch under the accusations. He didn't look away, Mara noticed. Her smile sharpened. Perhaps the trial wasn't fair. Perhaps our alpha bends rules for her. The words were poison, and they struck true. The whispers swelled, sharper now, like claws raking at Amara's skin, her chest squeezed. If they turned on her now, if they believed she had cheated, she was finished. Then his voice cut through the noise, low and unyielding. "Enough." The clearing fell silent. The alpha stepped forward, each stride heavy with authority, until he stood beside Amara. The morning light gilded him in gold, making the shadows retreat. "She is mine," he said, his voice ringing out like thunder. "Bound to me by the moon's decree. She faced the trial, and she survived. That is all that matters." The pack shifted uneasily. Some lowered their gazes, others bristled with quiet defiance. Mara's jaw clenched, but she didn't bow. "She is human," Mara hissed, her composure cracking. "She will never be one of us. She will never lead us." Amara's breath hitched. "Led?" The Alpha's gaze didn't waver. "She already does." Gasps rippled through the clearing. Amara's heart stuttered. Heat flushed her skin, not from pride, but from terror. She wasn't ready for this. She hadn't agreed to this. Yet here he was, declaring her not just his mate, but their Luna. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. "You can't just." He turned to her then, and the words caught in her throat. His gaze wasn't commanding this time. It was steady, sure, filled with something deeper than dominance. "You are stronger than you believe," he murmured, low enough only she could hear. "And I will not let them tear you apart for what you are not." The tether between them pulsed hot, alive. Amara wanted to scream, to deny him, to run. But the pack's eyes pinned her in place, waiting for her to stumble. And deep inside, some traitorous part of her wanted to believe him. Damara's voice sliced through the air. "You claim her as Luna, yet she hasn't proven herself to us. Words won't change that." The Alpha's golden eyes flicked to Mara, hard as steel. "Then she will prove it. In time. But hear me now." His voice rose, sharp and final. "Any who challenge her, challenge me." Silence followed, thick and heavy. No one spoke. No one dared. The Alpha turned, his hand brushing Amara's arm. Not possession, but guidance. A signal. "Come with me." Her legs moved before her mind agreed. She followed him out of the clearing, every step echoing with the weight of what had just happened. Inside his cabin, the fire roared brighter than she remembered. He shut the door behind them, the silence deafening. Amara spun on him, chest heaving. What was that? He regarded her calmly, though his eyes burned with something fierce. "It was necessary." "Necessary?" She snapped. "You stood there and told them I was their Luna. You put a target on my back. They already wanted your blood," he said simply. "Better they fear you beside me than tear you apart alone." Her hands trembled, anger and panic colliding. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be your mate. I didn't ask to lead anyone." For the first time, his composure cracked. He stepped closer, his voice rougher now. "Do you think I asked for it? Do you think I wanted the bond?" She froze. His chest rose and fell, his jaw tight. "I didn't want this. But the moment I felt it, the moment I saw you, I knew I'd burn the world before I let anyone else have you." Her lips parted, words caught in her throat. His confession shook something loose inside her, something she had buried beneath anger and denial. "I hate you," she whispered. Though the words trembled, his eyes softened, golden fire dimming to something almost tender. "No, you hate the bond. You hate the loss. But me?" His hand lifted, hovering inches from her cheek, not touching. "You don't hate me." Her pulse thundered. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. She wanted to push him away, to deny it. But when his scent, wild and warm, like pine and smoke, wrapped around her, her knees weakened. The tether between them pulsed again, stronger this time, searing. Amara shut her eyes, a tear slipping free. "I don't want this," she whispered. "I know," he murmured. "But you need it. And so do I." For a heartbeat, the world held still. Then, as if sensing the moment's fragility, a howl split the air outside. Long low. Warning, the Alpha stiffened. His eyes snapped toward the door. "What is it?" Amara asked, her voice shaking. He inhaled deeply, his expression hardening. "Not ours." Cold dread spilled through her veins. He turned back to her, eyes blazing. "Stay inside. Do not leave, no matter what you hear." Before she could reply, he was gone, out the door, into the night. The sound of his footsteps swallowed by the forest. Amara stood frozen, her body trembling, the tether between them taut, burning. And in her chest, she knew one truth with terrifying certainty. Whatever waited in those woods, it wasn't just coming for the pack, it was coming for her. Section 8, Blood Under the Moon. The night split open with howls, not the disciplined call she'd begun to recognize among his pack, but something sharper, hungrier. The sound of predators who took joy in the hunt. Amara's blood turned cold. She pressed her palms against the wooden walls of the cabin as if she could feel the threat through the grain. Every hair on her arms stood on end, her instincts screaming. Amara. Her head whipped toward the door. Mara appeared, dagger in hand, her face pale and furious. "Get out of here, human. You'll only get him killed." Amara's pulse spiked. "I'm not leaving him." Mara's lip curled. "Then you'll both die." Before Amara could answer, more intruders surged into the clearing outside. She caught flashes of fur, claws, teeth, wolves locked in brutal combat. The screams of men mixed with the snarls of beasts. The pack fought valiantly, but the enemy was relentless. The alpha shifted, bones cracking, body twisting back into his human form in a blur of impossible motion. He stood tall, naked and bloodied, his chest rising in ragged breaths. His gaze locked on her, fierce and unyielding. "You stay behind me," he ordered, voice rough with the remnants of his beast. Damara's throat tightened. "You'll die trying to protect me." His lips curved in something between a snarl and a vow. "Then I'll die as your mate." The words stole the air from her lungs. Before she could speak, another wolf lunged through the doorway. The alpha met it head-on, his body colliding with bone-shaking force. Blood sprayed across the floor, claws raked his skin, but he didn't falter. Damara's vision blurred with tears. Instinct screamed for her to run, but her heart chained her in place. The bond throbbed, agony and power all at once. She felt his pain, his fury, his determination to shield her no matter the cost. And then she understood if she stayed hidden, cowering, he would fight until he broke. But if she stood, if she showed them she wasn't weak, they might see something else. Luna, her legs trembled, but she seized the fallen intruder's dagger from the floor. The weight nearly slipped from her slick palms, but she lifted it, her breath steadying. Another wolf circled outside the cabin, teeth bared. Amara stepped into the doorway, torchlight glinting off the blade. "Come on," she whispered, her voice shaking but steady. "Try me." The beast snarled, but hesitation flickered in its eyes. Behind her, the alpha glanced back, shock flashing across his bloodied face. For the first time, she wasn't hiding behind him. She was standing beside him. The battle raged until dawn broke blood red over the treetops. The rival wolves retreated at last, their dead littering the clearing, their howls fading into the distance. The pack was battered but alive. And Amara, miraculously, impossibly, still stood. The alpha leaned against a tree, his chest heaving, blood streaking every line of his body. His golden eyes found hers, burning with pride, relief, and something deeper. "You're still alive?" he rasped. A faint smile tugging at his mouth, she clutched the dagger tighter, her whole body trembling now that the danger had passed. "Because you came for me." He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, until they were only inches apart. His bloodied hand lifted, brushing her cheek. "No," he whispered, "because you didn't run." The tether burned brighter than ever, alive between them. Amara's breath shuddered, her heart betraying her with every wild beat. She hated him. She wanted him. She needed him, and she was terrified that soon she wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Section 9. The bond ignites the night. Air was sharp, tasting of pine and iron as Alara walked beside Kale. Each step she took away from the clearing, where she had stood face to face with her sister, felt like shedding another layer of her old life. Still, her body trembled, not from fear this time, but from something far more dangerous. The alpha's presence. Kale didn't touch her, but the energy between them was almost unbearable, a current humming just beneath the skin. His steps were steady, each stride full of command, but she noticed the tension in his jaw, the way his eyes, silver even in the dark, kept flicking to her as though checking if she was about to vanish. "Why did you stop me back there?" Alara finally asked, breaking the silence that had stretched for too long. Kale glanced at her. "Because you don't need to waste your fire on those who no longer deserve it." Her chest tightened. "So I should just walk away? Let them ruin me and smile through it." He stopped suddenly, his size and intensity forcing her to halt too. His gaze bore into hers, unwavering. "No, you don't walk away. You survive. You rise. You claim what's yours." The words cracked through her, awakening something fierce. But before she could respond, a sound ripped through the trees, a howl. Low, guttural, not belonging to Kale's pack. Kale's head snapped toward the noise, his whole body shifting into readiness. Rogues, he muttered that Alara's blood turned cold. Here. Yes. They've been circling the borders for weeks. His eyes darkened. And tonight, they're closer than ever. Before she could react, the shadows around them moved. Figures emerged, eyes glowing with feral light. 4 of them. No 6. Rogues, their movements jerky, unstable, reeking of bloodlust. Kale growled low, the sound vibrating through the ground itself. Stay behind me. Her instinct screamed to run, but her feet rooted to the earth. She watched, wide-eyed, as Kale shifted in a blink of movement, his massive wolf form exploding into existence. Midnight black fur glistened under the moon, muscles rippling with lethal power. His silver eyes glowed brighter, fixed on the intruders. The rogues lunged. Kale met them head-on. The forest erupted in chaos. Snarls, teeth, the crack of bone. Alara pressed against a tree, her heart hammering, every nerve alive. She should have been terrified, but instead, awe consumed her. Kale was fury incarnate, every move precise and brutal. He threw one wolf aside with the strength of 10 men, snapped down on another's throat, and sent it yelping into the dirt. But then, one broke free, racing straight for her. Alara. She froze. Its jaws gaped, saliva glinting in the moonlight. Instinct screamed, but before she could even raise her arms, Kale slammed into the rogue midair, tearing it away from her. He stood over her now, snarling, protective, his massive frame a wall between her and death. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She reached out without thinking, fingers brushing his fur. The contact set her alight. Something inside her clicked. Another elder scoffed. The bond doesn't make mistakes, but it does test us. A human Luna? The pack will question it. Our enemies will see weakness. Alara felt their stares like knives. She opened her mouth to speak, to defend herself, to deny this fate, but Kale's hand tightened around hers. She is no weakness, he growled. She stood against betrayal, survived exile, and faced rogues without running. Tell me, which wolf among you has done the same without faltering? The room fell silent. The elders didn't answer, but their eyes stayed hard. Finally, the silver-haired woman spoke again, more softly this time. If she is truly your mate, the pack will demand proof. The bond must be shown. Alara's heart lurched. Proof. Kale's jaw clenched. He knew what they meant. The mate mark, the ritual that would bind them, body and soul, visible to all. A mark burned into her skin by his bite, sealing her fate forever. Alara's breath hitched. She wasn't ready. She didn't even know if she trusted him fully yet, let alone wanted to bear his mark. But in the council's eyes, without it, she was nothing but a human interloper. The weight of their expectation pressed down, and for the first time, Kale's steady mask cracked. His eyes flicked to hers, searching, asking without words. Are you ready for this? She couldn't answer. Not yet. The silver-haired elder leaned back, her voice final. Then we wait. But not long, Alpha. A Luna cannot linger in shadows. Kale gave a curt nod and turned, guiding Alara out before anyone could speak again. The night air outside was cooler, but Alara's chest burned. She pulled her hand from his. You didn't warn me. Kale stopped. His silver gaze cut into her, sharp and unyielding. Would it have changed anything? Yes. Her voice cracked. I'm not ready for this, Kale. I can't just let your people brand me, tie me to you, when I barely know where I stand anymore. His nostrils flared, his control visibly fraying. You are tied to me. Every time you breathe, every time your heart beats, I feel it. You think you can deny it, but the bond won't let you. And neither will I. Her chest ached. Then what am I supposed to do? Just surrender? Pretend I didn't lose everything only to fall into your arms because some invisible string says so. For the first time, his voice broke. Not in weakness, but in something rawer. No, you don't surrender. You fight. You take back everything they stole from you, and you do it by my side. Alara's throat closed, emotions tangling into a knot too thick to unravel. She hated him for being so certain. She hated fate for trapping her in this web. But more than anything, she hated how much she wanted to believe him. The bond pulsed again, warm and unrelenting. Kale stepped closer, his forehead lowering to hers, his voice a whisper. The pack will test you. The world will test us. But Alara, don't mistake this for chains. This bond is fire, and if you let it, it will burn away everything that tried to break you. Her breath trembled. She wanted to resist, to say no, but as his words sank into her bones, she realized something terrifying that a part of her already believed him. Section 11. Resolution. Accepted as Luna. The night air was sharp, tinged with the earthy scent of pine and wet soil. Moonlight spilled across the clearing, painting silver shadows that danced with every sway of the trees. I felt my pulse thrumming in my ears, a constant reminder of the tension that had been building for days, and of the bond that refused to be ignored. I had never been more aware of his presence than I was now. The Alpha, my Alpha, stood at the center of the pack, his gaze sweeping over the gathered wolves with a command that made the forest itself seem to pause. And then it landed on me. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed until there was nothing but him, and the raw, unspoken connection between us. The bond we shared wasn't just blood, it was fire, instinct, and something deeper than either of us could name. Do you accept her? His second asked, his voice steady, carrying over the low murmurs of the pack. The pack's eyes were on him, waiting for his decree. My heart stuttered, caught between hope and fear. Could this really be happening? After everything, after the betrayal, the heartbreak, the nights I thought I'd never feel safe again, was I finally being claimed? He stepped forward, and the shift in the air was undeniable. Even in human form, he radiated power. The ground seemed to hum under his weight, the moonlight tracing the hard angles of his face. My knees threatened to buckle, but I stood firm. Yes, he said, his voice low and unyielding. She is mine. A wave of something fierce and protective swept through me. The pack exhaled collectively, tension breaking, but it wasn't relief they felt. It was recognition. Recognition of the bond, of the claim, of the rightful Luna standing before them. I stepped toward him, our eyes locked, the world around us fading into the background. I accept you, I whispered, my voice trembling, but not with fear, only with the overwhelming weight of truth. The Alpha's jaw tightened. His hand reached for mine, fingers brushing against mine with a force that felt like it could ignite the very air. You will not just be accepted, he said, you will be respected. You will stand as my Luna, beside me, equal in power and spirit. I swallowed hard, tasting both awe and disbelief. This was what I had wanted, though I hadn't dared admit it even to myself. To belong, to be more than a shadow in someone else's story, to finally have a place where my heart could stop trembling and start trusting again. The pack began to circle us, forming a protective ring. Their eyes were no longer cold or doubtful. Some carried curiosity, some cautious approval, and a rare few, carried grudging respect. I felt their collective scrutiny, but also their acknowledgement. I was no longer the girl who had been left behind, no longer the one whose heart had been shattered by my sister's betrayal. Tonight, I was something new, something powerful. The Alpha knelt before me suddenly, the motion swift and reverent. My breath hitched. Do you swear, in the sight of the pack and the moon, to honor and protect our bond? His eyes never left mine, burning with a heat that made my knees weaken. I swear, I replied, the words steady even as my chest heaved. The moonlight caught the tear that slid down my cheek, glinting like silver. It wasn't fear or sorrow. It was relief and acceptance and a fierce joy that I hadn't thought possible. He lifted my hand, pressing it to his chest, right over the pulse that matched my own. Then let the bond be sealed, he said. The moment his palm made contact with mine, I felt the surge of power, raw and alive. It coursed through me like molten fire, tethering me to him in a way that went beyond words or vows. My senses exploded. I felt the pack as a whole, their loyalty, their strength, their unity. I felt his wolf, fierce and protective, brush against mine. And beneath it all, a deep, pulsing connection that hummed with the promise of more than just survival. We were bound, soul to soul, heart to heart. The Alpha rose, bringing me with him. His hand rested against the small of my back, a grounding force that kept me tethered to reality even as my mind swirled with the newness of this connection. The pack will watch over you, he said softly, so only I could hear. But know this, no one and nothing will take you from me. I shivered, the words reverberating through my bones. His claim was more than a title. It was protection, devotion, and something primal that went beyond human understanding. The bond wasn't just ours. It belonged to the pack too, and through it, I felt an unshakable security I hadn't known in years. From the edges of the clearing, my sister's voice cut through the night. Sharp, bitter, filled with incredulity. You? You can't just. But the pack shifted subtly, forming a wall of silent authority between us and her. Even the Alpha's presence didn't need to speak. It was understood. She had no place here. Her betrayal couldn't reach me anymore. That I met his gaze, and the heat in his eyes told me he was thinking the same thing I was. The past was over. Every deceit, every heartbreak, every stolen moment, they were all gone. Eclipsed by this new bond that neither time nor treachery could sever, the moon rose higher, bathing us in silver light, and for the first time, I felt the truth of who I was meant to be. I was no longer just a human girl caught in a supernatural storm. I was Luna, claimed, empowered, and loved in a way that both terrified and exhilarated me. He leaned closer, just enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath, the faint scent of his wolf lingering around him. You are mine, he whispered again, more intimate this time. And I am yours. Always. The pack's murmurs softened into quiet agreement, a collective acknowledgement that the bond was real, unbreakable, and deserved. Some shifted slightly, their expressions a mixture of awe and acceptance. Even those who had doubted before now lowered their eyes, understanding the truth of our connection. That I closed my eyes, letting the sensation of belonging wash over me. Years of doubt, fear, and heartbreak had led me here, to this moment of raw, unfiltered affirmation. Every betrayal, every scar, every sleepless night, all of it had forged me into someone capable of this love, this power, this union. The Alpha pulled me into a protective embrace, and I let myself melt into him. The moonlight framed us perfectly, silver and sacred. The pack parted just enough to watch, silent witnesses to the transformation of a girl into her destiny, and oh, words were necessary now. The bond spoke for itself, louder, clearer, and more potent than any promise or vow. Our souls had entwined, and with it, the pack's loyalty, respect, and acceptance had followed. That I rested my head against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart synchronize with mine. I belong here, I whispered. Not to the pack, not even just to him. I belong to myself now, empowered, cherished, and unshakably part of something greater. His hand stroked my hair, tender yet possessive. And I'll make sure no one ever forgets it, he murmured, his voice carrying both promise and warning. The forest was quiet now, save for the soft rustling of leaves and the distant cry of a wolf. The moon shone bright, bathing us in light that felt almost sacred. And in that glow, I knew we had won more than respect. We had claimed our place in the world. Together, the pack slowly dispersed, leaving us standing alone in the clearing. But I no longer felt fear, no longer felt the sting of betrayal. I felt the strength of the Alpha behind me, the power of the bond around me, and the certainty that this was only the beginning. I lifted my gaze to meet his once more. We did it, I said softly. He smiled, an expression that was all alpha and all tender, a paradox I would never tire of. Yes, he agreed, and nothing will ever take this from us. For the first time in my life, I believed it. I believed in him, in the bond, in the pack, and most importantly, in myself. I was Luna now, claimed, respected, and loved, and nothing could ever erase that. The moon witnessed it all, silver light reflecting in our eyes, and in that moment, I knew this was home. Section 12. OUTRO. Peace under the moon. The forest was quiet now. The chaos of past betrayals, fights, and heartbreaks finally dissipated into the night. Moonlight spilled over the clearing, bathing everything in silver that made the trees, the earth, even the mist hovering above the soil, shimmer like it belonged to another world. For the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed without fear, without suspicion, without the shadow of my sister's betrayal looming over me. He stood beside me. The Alpha, his presence as commanding as the first day I had ever seen him. But tonight, it wasn't just command. It was protection, warmth, and the unspoken promise that no harm would ever touch me again. His hand found mine naturally, our fingers intertwining like they had been made to fit together, and the bond that had been sealed weeks ago thrummed through us both. steady and unbreakable. You're quiet, he murmured, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. His wolf's scent lingered, earthy and intoxicating, reminding me that even in human form, he carried the power of the wild. I'm happy, I admitted softly, my eyes tracing the moonlight that kissed the curves of his face. I never thought I'd get to feel this safe. This whole, complete. He smiled, the corner of his lips tugging in a way that was both tender and possessive. You are complete, he said. With me, with the pack, with the bond. You belong here, and I'll spend every day proving it. I leaned into him, letting his warmth settle around me. It was more than comfort. It was a grounding force, a tether to the life I had fought so hard to reclaim. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every tear I had shed had led me here. And now it felt like the universe itself had conspired to give me this moment. The pack gathered slowly, their forms emerging from the shadows of the trees. They didn't crowd us, but they circled at a respectful distance, their eyes gleaming with curiosity, loyalty, and acceptance. I could feel their awareness, the subtle shift in their energy, acknowledging me not just as the alpha's mate, but as Luna. Their Luna. I glanced at them, my chest swelling with a mix of awe and gratitude. It hadn't been easy to earn their respect. From whispered doubts to tense confrontations, the journey had been as brutal as it was enlightening. But tonight, the tension had melted into understanding, into a silent promise that I was no longer alone, no longer vulnerable, and no longer defined by my sister's betrayal or my past losses. The alpha lifted his head toward the full moon, his profile sharp and commanding. I felt the pull of his wolf inside him, the strength that flowed from him like a river of light and shadow. And when his amber eyes found mine again, I saw not just desire, but unshakable devotion, a promise that transcended human words. Are you ready? He asked, his voice low, carrying the weight of centuries of instinct and authority. For what? I whispered, though I already knew the answer. To truly begin, he said, sliding an arm around my waist. To claim our future, together, as Luna and Alpha, as mates, as everything we're meant to be. I swallowed hard, feeling the surge of power that came from being bound to him. It wasn't just love, it was partnership, destiny, and the echo of something primal and eternal. I'm ready, I said, my voice firm. Though my heart pounded with the thrill of it, he stepped forward, and I followed, matching his stride as we walked into the moonlit clearing. The pack parted, their gaze following us with unspoken approval. Even the most skeptical of their members had softened, recognizing the undeniable truth between us. The bond was real, fierce, and unbreakable, and through it, we had claimed not just each other, but a place of respect and honor within the pack. That we stopped in the center of the clearing. Under the brilliance of the full moon, I could feel its power against my skin, a gentle hum that matched the rhythm of the bond between us. The alpha lowered his hand, brushing it along my cheek, and I shivered, a rush of warmth spiraling through me. You're mine, he whispered again, the words carrying more weight than any oath or ceremony. And I am yours. Forever. I am yours, I breathed back, and this time, I said it for more than just the bond. I said it for the girl who had been left behind, for the woman who had fought, cried, and clawed her way back to herself. I said it for the future we were about to create together, wild, untamed, and ours. The pack shifted closer, circling us once more, and the alpha's wolf stirred beneath his skin. The air shimmered with its presence, thick with the power of the full moon, and I felt my own wolf rise within me, fierce and protective. We were no longer two separate beings. We were bonded, our spirits intertwined, a force that even the wild would respect. Let them see it, I said softly, gazing up at the moon. Let them feel it, too. The alpha's eyes softened, then hardened with determination. As you wish, Luna. He raised his head, letting out a low, resonant howl that cut through the night like lightning. It was a call to the pack, a declaration of strength and unity. I joined him instinctively, letting my own voice carry over the trees, over the hills, over the world that had once felt so cruel and unkind. Together, our howls intertwined, a song of claim, of love, of newfound power. The pack answered, their voices merging with ours, echoing through the forest. I could feel their loyalty, their acceptance, their acknowledgement that this union was not just ours, it belonged to all of us. And in that moment, I understood something I had never truly known before. Belonging wasn't just about love. It was about respect, trust, and the recognition of one another as equals, as a family, as a force to be reckoned with. When the final echo faded, the forest settled back into a gentle silence, broken only by the whispering wind and the distant rustle of leaves. I rested my forehead against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear, the bond alive and steady like a river of molten silver. Peace, I murmured, letting the word roll over me like a benediction. Finally, peace, for us, he said, his voice vibrating with pride and love. Forever, and under the full moon, surrounded by the pack that had once questioned me but now embraced me, I felt the truth of those words. What began with loss and betrayal had ended in love and unity. What began as a girl without a home or hope had become a Luna, claimed and honored. Standing beside the Alpha she had never expected to call her own, I lifted my gaze to the moon again, silver light catching in my eyes. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Free to love, free to fight, free to live on my own terms, together with him. My Alpha, my mate, my home. The Alpha pulled me into his arms, strong and unwavering, and I let myself melt against him. No walls, no fear, only trust. We didn't need words anymore. Our bond, our hearts, our souls spoke louder than anything else ever could. And in the stillness of that moonlit night, I knew one undeniable truth. Whatever the future held, whatever challenges, storms, or dangers, the two of us would face them together. As Luna and Alpha, as mates, as a force the world would recognize and fear, if necessary, because now, finally, we had each other. And nothing could ever take that away.